My name is Martin Blackman. I'm the General Manager of USTA Player Development. I'm going to be very, very brief. But I just want to say that this is an honor for us to be able to play a very, very small part in honoring David's life. He was a true champion on and off the court. He loved playing on this court. And he epitomizes what it means to be a champion. You know, we play tennis, and we love tennis, and it can have a massive impact, but the life and the spirit and the character of David has an impact that will have a ripple effect in all of our lives forever. So it's an honor and a privilege for us to be able to name this court after David, to honor him. We're blessed to have his family and friends here today. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to his coach, Eric Nunes. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you to everybody for coming. I know a lot of people have come far away to be part of this, and I wouldn't expect anything less. Knowing David. Martin, thank you so much for allowing us to make this possible. Okay, so I'm going to try to do my best here without getting a little too emotional. David meant a lot to me, as I'm sure he did with a lot of you. I got to know David through Jacek. Jacek gave me a call one day when I was at the U.S. Open with some players, and he said, "Eric, I think I have a boy that's very special that I would like for you to take a look at and see if you can help him out and help him achieve all the dreams that he can get to with in this sport." So that's how we began. He came down with Pam and Dave and got on court, and special was a real understatement when it came to David. We got to work. We started trying to improve his game the best best I could. He had big dreams in the sport. I was privileged to be able to share them with him, and he was making great progress, and we were all very happy to see that. Then things changed. So we got the diagnosis with when he was in Phoenix. We tried to put everything together to do our best that we could to get him the treatment. He had his surgery. Remarkably, 7 days later, we got on court. He was able to hit with one of my pro players at the time, with Bjorn, 8 days after surgery. And he didn't want to be anywhere else but on the court. So the next steps with all of this was, we spoke with Dave and with Pam. David expressed what he wanted to continue doing through his treatments and through the cancer that he had. And we adapted the best we could. Remarkably, he made some improvements in certain things. So it was, okay, I'm having trouble doing this. Okay, let's figure out how we can, work around it. But what held true was that he would walk through those doors every day, happy to be here. So, the last year I was so privileged to spend the last year of his life with him. We cried, laughed a lot. It was really special for me. So dedicating this court to him, as we told him in his last weeks of life that we would do, was something very, very special to him, and he was very proud of it. So I was looking over my text yesterday, and I asked him, David, what court would you want? And he said, absolutely, 100% court 3. So I'm really proud to be, part of this and be able to dedicate this court to him, where everybody that comes through will see him and what he meant to all of us. So Dave, if you may join me and Pam, would like to unveil the plaque. Pam, please. All right. So, in loving memory of David, as players step onto this court, may they be inspired by David's fighting spirit and love for the game. His legacy lives on through the joy he found on these very grounds. Thank you.
This is really hard, but I want to thank Eric, USTA, Yonex, and he loved it here. I'm so glad that he had the opportunity to come down here and to do this. It's been a hard year, but thank you so much for allowing this to happen.
Thank you.
I just want to add to what Dave said. Thank you to the USTA, to Yonex, for making this come to fruition. It really was a special thing for David. And I also want to thank all our family and friends who are here with us to share this very special day. When David had only about 4 months here before he received his diagnosis. And when we were in Phoenix, Dave and I had a very short time. They wanted to know that day, where do you want David to receive treatment? And so Dave and I put our heads together and we're like, Chicago, Phoenix, Orlando, where should we get treatment? And we made the decision that day that we wanted him to continue to pursue what he loved, tennis. And so we chose for him to come back to Orlando and train and receive treatment. So as David was going through treatment, cancer treatment can be really tough, and it took its toll on his body. We told him, listen, at any point, if this becomes too tough, we don't have to stay here. You can go somewhere else for treatment. You don't have to continue. And it was David who made the choice. I want to be here. I want to train here. I want to continue pursuing what I love. And so we put that in his hands, and even as treatment went on and it became difficult for him to play and to see the ball and do different things, he was always open to trying something else to continue to train, glasses or patching or whatever he could. So we are just so happy that he lived his last year doing what he loved and playing here. He loved being a part of this tennis community, and this is so very special to us that a small piece of him will always be here. So thank you very much for letting me share that with you.
For those of you who might not be aware, we're running a camp this afternoon, tomorrow full day, and then Sunday in the morning. I had the idea of taking that first afternoon and really making it about playing a lot of different points and games that David really enjoyed. So that's how we're going to kick things off, and we're just proud to be part of all of this, Pam and Dave, and it's sad, but at least we can, like the plaque says, just hopefully take something that we learned from David and apply it to our lives. We have 3 shirts here that are going to be given to Pam and Dave, and then one framed in the Yonex headquarters. So if everybody can sign it, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, so one time I was at the tournament and I saw David on the court, and he was a small kid, but a very, very brave fighter. And he was down in the first set, and he was talking to himself. He said, "David, you can do it. You can do it." And then, sure enough, second set he came back. So that's a great story of his fighting spirit to me.
David was a special person, and obviously a very gifted tennis player and athlete. But I think even more than that, he was a special person. And so I'll never forget Dave telling me when he was 3. I think you've heard people talk about when he was 3 years old and my brother was taking him out to the court, I guess 2 maybe. And I found it stunning. And I was like, what are you doing? And he said, Ed, I'm just introducing him. And it was amazing. I think over time, David became more of a teacher of my brother than my brother was to him. And I don't know that was the same with Pam. It may have been, but that was we called him Little David, and that was Little David to the family. He was an old soul at a very young age, and I think he applied that. And I truly believe that he may never have been number 1 in the world or a top player, but he had the natural ability to go as far as his God-given talent and physical abilities would have allowed him, and he also had the mind. So I truly believe he would have been a tremendous success. But more than that, what I believe and what I believe the world lost was him as a person.
My name is Augie Guimaras. I'm out of South Bend, Indiana, and we train at a small club in Niles, Michigan, which is just 7-8 miles down the road. I told the story a little bit earlier to a couple of people. One day I received a call from a then Notre Dame graduate student saying, "Hey, I saw this gentleman playing tennis against his son, and you should take a look at this kid." So I gave him your number. So a couple days later, Mr. Filer showed up. I had not met Mr. Filer before. Mr. Filer showed up, and he was holding a child. And he says, Velvet sent me here to talk to you about training my son. I said, yeah, well, when are you going to bring the kid? He goes, this one here. He was holding this child. This little bitty guy, small little feet, And I thought, well, okay, this is the kid. Let's go. Did I know he was going to be great? Nah, he's just 4 years old. He was 2 weeks shy of being 4. We went on court, and what was interesting for me is I asked him, by the way, I don't know your parents. What's your last name? He goes, I have no idea. I said, now, wait a minute. How can you be 4 years old? You know, strange parents, right? So when I got ready to feed the first ball to him, obviously he had already been trained by Dad since the age of 2. So when I fed the ball, he said, wait. I remember. Now I didn't know what he was talking about anymore. There's a number to it. I said, number to what? He says, my last name. I'm the 5th. That's my last name. So I call him the 5th for a long time. And so I was privileged to have had the opportunity to be on court with Dave as a young child. But people always ask, did you know he was going to be a good player? Of course you don't know. I didn't know. I have a bunch of 4-year-olds that come in every holding baby rackets and little tennis shoes. It's so cute. But we never knew. So David was instrumental in teaching me a lot about myself, because I used to get so mad at the kids. Oh, God, these kids don't run. They're lazy. Actually, it's just a testament of teaching you about yourself. So I learned more from him than I'm sure he learned from me. So I have a sign in my office, and that's what we have to hold on to. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Doug from Goshen, Indiana, and really, I haven't got to the point where I'm really over it at all. I think about him every time I do a lesson, but really, I want to say thank you to the Filers for trusting me for all those years with them, and just spending a lot of time with them. And you know, David, I started seeing David probably when he was 9 or 10 when I first saw him, and I knew there was something special, because I've had just a couple really good players, top national players, and he was better than them. I used to be down at Ransom Everglades and work with David Martin, Josh Tarkov, Laura Granville, some of those ladies. I'm like, David is going to be something special, like better than David Martin, who played some pro ball. So, and I remember there were times in lessons where I'd be like, oh my gosh, he's so frustrating. It's like, I don't know. And then then the next practice, I'm like, yep, you don't see that very often at all. That's something special. And his backhand was incredible. So you watch out for his backhand down the line. It was going to get you, especially the older he got. But really for me, I just want to, thank them. And, I still think of the magic tricks he'd do when he came and showed me, and I try to figure them out and tick them off when he couldn't stump me. But, I'm sure I'll appreciate it later, but right now I'm just super, super sad. And, it's been getting close to a year. And, people like David don't come along very often. And I remember seeing John Glover at Kalamazoo trying to tell him how special little David was. And, I think back to that moment when we were watching the Kalamazoo, and I was talking to him. That day, I remember watching the match, and little David turned to me. I don't know if I ever told you this. He goes, I have a headache. And, I think about that all the time. That was the first time that he said he had a headache. And I remember with kind of the diagnosis, how long it could have been there and things like that, and pressure on his brain. And I just think, from right now, it just makes me sad. This whole thing makes me sad. But I'm just very appreciative of having the opportunity, and I try to take things I learned from David and apply it to people I do lessons with. And so really, I'm just grateful and just sad, really. So.
So the first time I met David, I was playing 12s clay courts, and I actually played him in quarterfinals there. And then after that, obviously we played most of the same tournaments. I saw him, we became pretty good friends. And then obviously started training here. That's when we started to get really close. Practice at least two, three times a week. Spent a lot of time together, lunch breaks, doing normal stuff.
Well, I knew David from a really, really young age. Playing a lot of similar tournaments. I didn't know him too well. We played an indoor. I remember playing him in an indoor L2. But I really started to get to know him when he started training here, because we were both training here.
We always lived pretty close to each other, so we always competed together. we're always good friends on and off the court. So yeah.
He came, I don't know when it was exactly, but we were practicing like for a few months. He was here and we were together on court with Coach Eric like every single day.
What do you feel like was special about him?
Like his positive attitude and how just like full of life he was and just happy, and like never really got like, even when he went through it, he was always positive and just positive.
So I've known David pretty well all throughout the years, playing USTA, probably since 10 and under. He'd always, beat me up in some tournaments, kind of end my tournaments pretty often, but through the years we became pretty close. He'd come to Chicago a lot to hit with Jacek, so yeah, we developed a pretty good relationship. He was just a super fun guy off the court, very lighthearted, fun to joke around with, always positive. Yeah, so he made tennis a lot of fun.
I met him through a lot of tournaments, like USA tournaments, and through Jacek, playing with Jacek. And then his grandparents also live in Western Springs, and I live in Hinsdale, so it's like the neighboring town. So farther on, when I knew him, I was at his grandparents, maybe once or twice. So yeah, he's just always like the most positive person on the court. Like always want to just be there with him, playing as a partner with him. Always a high energy. He's always making you better. I wanted to work harder.
Yes, I think like anybody else, played doubles with him a few times. Had a particularly great experience playing a team event with him, which was a lot of fun when we were 12. But yeah, just got to know him over the years and really got to like him. Not always the most on the court. He was so tough to play, but just a great guy and a great friend overall. I think he was just always really easy to talk to. I mean, he was somebody that you could always turn to cheer you up. I know there were plenty of occasions after tough losses I went over and talked to David, and just kind of being in his presence and just cracking jokes and just being boys with him it made it a lot easier. So he was just a good person to be around.
I've only known him like 1 or 2 years, not that long. We got close really fast. I met him at Cincinnati, I think it was 2 years ago. I had never met him before, but within the first 5 minutes of meeting him, we felt like we had known each other our entire lives. He's just one of the happiest kids I've ever met. Neither of us had tickets, but we snuck front row into the Rafa match. He was playing, I think it was Chorich, and there's this lady next to us. She snuck in a bunch of fireballs, and she was getting pretty drunk. We were laughing at her the whole time. It was pretty funny. Appreciate what you have and live life to the fullest. I've changed the way I live a lot, I think. I try to live to make memories and live every moment to the fullest. You never know when it's going to end.
I started talking to David, just through Snapchat and stuff, and then we started playing video games together almost every night, couple hours. And I met him. We met up at a Chipotle in Mobile, Alabama, and we started at the Chipotle and we just kind of left and walked around the town, went to Chuck E. Cheese, just have fun. I mean, he was just super positive on the court, super happy to be there. If I was ever upset, sad, he was there to lift me up, put me back to the mental state that I should be in when I'm on the court. And that's just something special you don't see in a lot of people. Even when we're playing competitive points up the middle, it's he wants to bring out the best in me even then, and that's just something you don't see a lot. Well, we just kind of just started playing some duos and just had fun with it at first and got better and better and better and just kept going with it. It became a nightly thing. We would hop on, play some competitive, and just have fun.
Yeah, so I got a call from Jacek, saying that listen, I have a really good prospect for you. I was at the time working with probably one of the top boys in the world in his age, and he said, I'd like for you to take a look at him and tell me what you think, and let's guide him in the right direction. So he came over to Orlando with Pam to work with me. And small boy, not too big in stature, but very big inside, and you can really see that. Really, the first day that I got on court with him, I was like, okay, there's something here, right? What I didn't know exactly what quite yet, but he had some really good qualities. So we got to working. We worked about a week. Here, kind of like a trial week, and then I sat down with Pam and I said, listen, I'm in. I'd be happy to work with him and start building a plan for what he was going to have to improve to get to where he wanted to be. Yeah. So he was a great competitor, loved competing, always brought out the best in himself when it was time to compete, which is a great quality to see. I remember like it was yesterday, that first week, there was a day that I told myself, okay, I'm going to push this kid to see really how bad he wants it. And I just could not get him to drop his head. Just pushed him physically, and he just wouldn't give in. And I got to a point where I said, okay, like, I see what this kid's about. And it was very special. Yeah, so I spent the first 4 months when he was very healthy. I'll say very healthy. He was healthy, and we were able to practice in full and normal. Getting to know him, getting to know what he was about. That's one of the keys when you're coaching to understand the player. So how I can get the best out of him. And we built a friendship, and he's a big fan of basketball, which I am as well. And we had very different teams that we that we rooted for. So he was with the Bulls, and I was always been with the Miami Heat. So we would often joke and tease each other about the record and who's better and all that. So we would, that would be a daily thing. It's like, hey, we beat you guys, last night. But I really got to see kind of how special he was as a person, as a human being, at such a young age. So and that was really great to be a part of. Like I said in my speech, we cried. We cried a lot. We talked about life. We laughed a whole bunch and joked and had a great time. So I'm just happy to have been part of his life and got to see all those, be part of all those aspects in his life.
Kind of just through seeing him at tournaments, hanging out, warming up together, especially out at the bigger tournaments. The later you go in the tournament, there's less people there. You start to see the same people and you get familiar with them, and kind of got familiar with Dave, and we just started warming up together and became friends from that. We were just good friends, and then we said, let's play hard courts. So we went out and played the hard court nationals in Mobile. Had a kind of a heartbreaking loss in the quarters. We lost 11-9 in a third set, and we said we got to go back and do it again. So about a month later, we went and played, and we won the doubles, the national doubles together, and that was probably a really special moment. We went out there, and it was actually here at Lake Nona, and after that, we just started playing and never looked back, really. Mentally, when he would go out on the court, 1, he didn't miss a ball. 2, he just never really lost focus. 3, he would never cheat himself, or he would never cheat the opponent, but he wouldn't let anything go. If the ball was out by that much, he would call it out, and he really just never lost focus. And I think it was the dedication of, he just wanted to win so badly that he pretty much did anything he could to win. And I think probably a bunch of other people will tell you that he just wanted to win. And that took over a lot of the time with just how competitive he was on the court, whether we were playing mini golf, whether we were playing mini tennis, or while we were playing a practice set. It was just competitive so much, and I think that just took him a long way. Yeah, off the court, nothing really changed. Whether he was talking to you or talking to me, he was the same person, which I thought that was really cool. A lot of the kids, they're in their little friend groups, and they don't treat other people the same sometimes. But he always treated everyone, whether it was the lowest kid in the tournament, whether it was the number 1 seed. He was always just same person, and on and off the court, he was a funny guy. We have a big rivalry in basketball. I cheer for the Miami Heat. He really frowned upon that. Made sure he let me know. We had some tough seasons while he was a Bulls fan. He's a big Alex Caruso fan, and really just went back and forth between whether it was basketball or just any little argument. We would have our little arguments, and then that was kind of what we had a fun time doing, going back and forth with each other, giving him a hard time, he'd give me a hard time, and see who really got the last word at the end of the tournament.
Through his relationship with my son, and they played doubles together and hung out together, and I got to know him. I ended up spending quite a bit of time with him. Through the years, you get to see a lot of players as a coach, and I've done it for many, many years. I've worked with some really good players, and in my estimation, there wasn't one thing you could point out. The one thing that I thought, it was like the X factor. He had that ability to make the balls all the time under pressure. He had amazing concentration, but to me, that's what I just felt like he had it. And had he continued on living, he would have been very, very accomplished tennis player.
I met him when he came to the East Lake Athletic Club. He came to a drill. He's probably 9, 10 years old.
And what did you see?
A little kid that we could play with the best players in the clinic. Just somebody that was, he always had a smile, was always laughing, had fun, and was really good. So an intense desire to win, and then just the ability to make shots that nobody else can.
One great story that I have about him is that after his diagnosis, I mean, he was obviously struggling to see the ball at this point and stuff. I was playing winters here 2 years ago, and I just remember every day, he'd be showing up at my matches, his friends' matches, just we were talking about his love for tennis, and showing up every day, looking forward to that and finding joy and cheering other people on. He was sweeping the courts for them, and I just thought that was super cool that even when he was struggling, he was still happy seeing other people and wanting to be around them, and I just thought it was really cool.
All right, so we're down here. James is playing in us. It's after he had gotten the disease and had been diagnosed with the disease. Now some of the listeners and some of the people that watch this may know this guy. There's a guy, Jerry Baskin, that works with me at the Laurel Park Tennis Center. He has a granddaughter, Morgan McGill. Okay, so I know who this girl is. I know who Morgan McGill is. Beautiful, blonde, gorgeous. Okay. I'm watching James. He's playing Dylan Long from Indianapolis. He's playing Dylan Long. David's close by, and David's on his phone, and David says, "Oh my gosh, Morgan McGill. I love Morgan McGill. Oh, she's incredible. Look at this." I go, David, what are you talking about? Come over here. I know Morgan. Come here. So he came over. He says, "Oh, she's so gorgeous. I would never have a chance with a girl like that." I said, No. David, you gotta hit the approach shot and then come in and the volley, make the volley. You gotta just ask her, to see what and he was in the middle of the disease, he was going through it. Now this is the tough part for me. We went to pick him up before the thing that we had there in South Bend. We went to pick him up at Grandma's house in Chicago. And at that time he had the walker, and he was getting into the car. He got into the car, and I don't hear so good anymore. I'm getting older. He's in the back, and he was having trouble speaking. You probably remember that. And this got to me. He said, "I'm driving," and he says, "Mr. Weber, I asked her." David, this was 2 months later. "What do you mean?" But I didn't understand him. I had to get my son to translate. He said, "I asked her." And it started to dawn on me. He said, "I asked Morgan McGill out, and she said yes." And that got to me. So that was a good one. That was a good thing. A little extra added thing to that, and again, so we went to the ding in South Bend. Now there was a lady there, and okay, I'll tell the story, and then you do with it what you wish. Okay, there's a little Asian lady. You may know her. Her kids are up there. I told her this story. We were sitting up there. We were up there quite a while talking. David was relating to everybody, and she came up to me. We started talking. We were going on, and she said, and I told her the story. She says, "Well, do you know the girl?" And I said, "Yeah. I know her." "Well, could we get her a plane flight up here? Maybe get a hotel room, David, her?" She's a little young for that,
The sports that we talk, but I even like to go back when he was young. He'd get up every morning and we'd watch television together before he'd go to school, usually one of his like Ben 10 or whatever, and I actually started to get into it. But, you know, we were just, we were father and son, and we had a special bond, and I miss him dearly.
We'd go around campus and just, I don't have a specific story, but well, one time we were playing basketball, and I just remember it was just a lot of fun hanging out with him. He was always a really like joyful and a funny guy.
I mean, we always played doubles together, so it was always a fun time. You know, he was always a fighter. Like no matter the score, the situation, or how he felt, like he always brought energy, and like, you know, wanted to compete every day. So it's really like an honor being with him. Yeah, we played like a lot of national tournaments together. I think we made like a lot of deep runs into tournaments. I don't remember if I don't think we won anything, but it was always like fun to be with him, competing.
Yeah, one time we were playing on the red clay where Coach Eric told us to do a cone game. So we were playing the cone games, and it came down to the last 2 minutes, and he ended up hitting it. He ran around the court, and it was pretty cool.
Wow. So he had never been fishing. And so we had, my wife Dee Dee and I had a farm, and we had a stocked pond. I used to call it a lake, but it was really a pond. And so I'll never forget that he came to the house, and I said, you know, let's go fishing. So we went down to the pond, and we began fishing. And so I had said, unfortunately, that you just throw it in, and the fish bite so much. We don't fish here, and you know it's stocked with 3 different types, and David's gonna be like that. So literally, I throw the line in, boom, and pull it up. See, oh, it's great. David throws, he throws, and he's standing there. I'm like, look, I'm gonna go up for a minute, and he's like, no, I'm gonna stay here. And it was getting dark, and so Pam and Dave were ready to go. He would not leave, to show you the absolute innate competitiveness, and it really was. He was this big, and he would not. So I went down, and lo and behold, finally, bam! And I'll never forget. He looked up at me, and his face just lit up, and he's like, "See?" I'm like, "There you go."
One of the best parts of that, I believe, was Mr. Filer and I are sitting. I don't know if everybody knows, Lake Nona. It's got the restaurant there, and it's got the glass walls, and we're sitting there. They had just won the semifinals, so of course they're preparing, getting ready, and we're sitting there, the glass walls, and zoom, David goes running by, heading over for the college side. He's got James's hat. It's got to be 80, 90 degrees out. He's flying by, and then zoom, after James comes, after David, James comes running by, and a couple of the other kids. So I don't, Mr. and Mrs. Filer, that's not the type of preparation that they want to see. So I said to Mr. I'll go handle it. So I went over to the college side, and there I found James. James had David inside of a clothes, where the clothes hamper on wheels, and he had him, and he was rolling him around, just spinning there. They're both dizzy, going crazy. It was probably one of the best things they could have done. They were relaxed. They went out there and they competed very well and very relaxed. But at the time, I don't think Mr. Filer, and we're glad if she had been here, none of that foolishness would have gone on.
Gosh, a lot to say. I'm trying to think here, narrow it down. Always a smile. He loved being around people. He loved being around kids. And I can give you an example. I went to a tournament with him, and it was like a team competition. And before he went on the court, I wanted to tell him, what to do with tennis and all this stuff. And he was having so much fun with his friends and all that stuff. I said, nope, keep it to yourself, Doug. Just let him have a good time. So he was everybody's friend. He just knew how to have a good time. And then, he loved doing magic. He loved to ask questions. A trait of really good players is that they ask questions. He wasn't afraid to ask questions. He had a little bit of a argumentative side to him, but he would never take it too far, and just always would debate and things like that.
So.
Well, basically, there was me. I was the first one who see David on a national level. He was the youngest one on the field playing in Mobile, Alabama, boys 12s, and he was at the time very young, 10. And I remember somebody was telling me there was a young small kid playing on the court, I believe 27. Then go and look at him. He's different than the rest of the field. And so I'm going on this court, and the first thing I notice, then I see one player, and I don't see the second player. So that means somebody's out there, and the somebody is very short on the court. But I see also the ball coming out from this shorter player side, very aggressive, and with a good trajectory, with a good pace, and all of a sudden I'm getting closer to the court, and I see David. And I see somebody who is... when you're watching the player, most of the time you know when they're winning or losing. And at the time there was no scoreboard on the court, so I don't know if he's up or he's down. His emotions was just really flat. At the same time, his backhand down the line was very, very different than a lot of junior players. It was just almost like on a professional level. The way he changing direction from the cross-court rally was very unusual. So. First thing, I'm gonna wait for him, I'm gonna introduce myself, and I'm gonna try to scout him to the team. Shortly after the tournament, I had a chance to send the demos from the Yonex, and then the rest is a history. David became the head-to-toe player, Yonex player, to the last days. Yonex was supporting him even to the days when the David couldn't compete in a national level. Still, he was receiving rackets and the strings just to train. And the funny memory which I have that comes on the last stage of his life, when we've been on this court with Eric, and when he practiced with Eric on the court 3, and I remember when he couldn't hit this backhand down the line. And I tried really very hard to help him because Eric was talking to Pam, and then I was trying to hand toss to him, and I was just trying to bring the shot. But I didn't know one thing, which Dave didn't tell me. He couldn't see the ball coming out from this angle. He couldn't see on the left side. And I tried very hard to the point that I was just like really kind of like upset with him. Then he cannot do anything more than usually. He didn't say anything. He didn't mention then anything about the vision. He just took at the training very hard. On the end, when I was going to the bench, just Pam tell me, Jacek, he cannot see on the left side. But David never really shared this with me. So after practice, I asked him, David, why you didn't tell me this? You know, then you cannot see it. Doesn't matter. You know, I was on a court with you. That's, you know, the training matter, you know. And that was a pure David. There was a pure David. Anytime he stepped on a court, there was a business. He really want to enjoy it to the last days.
You know, I think our sense of humor's got along. I'm pretty sarcastic. Virtually every time on the court, there was something pretty funny going on, and we're going to say something crazy out there. But I remember the joke was, I asked him at the beginning, I said, do you need a drink? And he's like, no, I don't drink. I'm like, you don't drink? I'm like, what's up? And he's like, well, I don't drink water, I drink milk. And I'm like, you drink milk? Like, on a changeover, you'll drink, please? He's like, no, I just don't drink. So then he started drinking water, and then the running joke was that he owes me about 3 cases of water because he would never remember his water. And then I'd be like, hey, do you want one of mine? Because I would bring extra. And he'd be like, no. And then after 15 minutes, he's like, all right, I'll take one of yours. And he would always take one of my water. So the joke was he owed me about 3 cases of water at the end. But you know, he loved magic tricks, and he would, you know, do things, and I'd try to figure out how he did it, and we would watch videos, and we'd talk about stuff like that. So
we were actually playing mini golf after one of the tournaments, and I believe it was, well, I don't remember what hole, but we were playing, and he goes, I'm gonna call the shot right here, and I go, okay, what are you gonna call? And he goes, I'm gonna hit off the bank there, and then it's gonna go there, and it's gonna go in the hole. He said, if it goes in the hole, you owe me $20. I said, all right, let's go $20. I bet him $20. He hit it, of course. And then he stares me down, puts it on his Instagram and everything. About 5,000 people saw it, and then I wasn't gonna pay him. And then I got about 100 messages. He needs his 20. So I had to give him his 20 at that point. I mean, like I said, when he was competitive, no matter whether we were playing mini golf or we were just doing something else.
Yeah, so during COVID, like all the courts were shut down, all the clubs were shut down, so we played at like this random person's like back in their backyard, and like this court like wasn't like very nice at all. Like it was like really condensed, like small fences, and we just play, with a coach, and we just had the best time ever, just joking around. Good, like over COVID, so it was a lot of fun.
Oh, funny story. Maybe when I was at his grandparents' house. So when he had his diagnosis and we were all playing, me, him, Nathan Hernandez, we were all playing like Uno and cards together, and he was always just telling jokes even deep into his cancer.
That team event was fun. We spent a lot of time together at like restaurants and stuff, and just kind of were just goofing around. I mean, I remember I don't know if he introduced me, but we ended up trying like some different Mexican foods out in Arizona, and it was just a good time. He's just always fun to be around, and I actually got to play doubles with him when we were on this team event, and just a great team player and a great friend overall.
So I was on the NBA, I was on his Make-A-Wish trip with him. We went to the NBA finals, and one of his places that he had picked out to go in California was he wanted to go to a hiking place because he liked hiking. So it was supposed to be, we would go to the right and go on this trail to see all the trees and see how cool it was. And he looked at the sign and he stopped and he said, "Wait, Jackie, look, we could walk 9 miles and go to the beach." And I said, "Sure, we can do that. You need to text your mom first." He's like, no, she'll know where we are. She'll know where we are. We got to the beach, a couple hours later. We were in the water, and David looks at his phone. Who's calling me? The police are calling him. David's mom had called the police on us. My mom doesn't know about this, so she's gonna find out. But and she was not happy. But it was very fun. That whole trip was so much fun, and the cops were just like, we had milkshakes in our hand, and I remember the cops saying, "You might want to get one of those for your mom because she is not happy."
Yeah, we actually, I believe we had to win 6 matches. It was a pretty tough tournament as far as the players that were in it. We went into the finals a little, it was a little interesting, our preparation. We decided we were not going to warm up. We decided we were going to run around and play tag. So probably not the most dedicated warm-up Miss Filer would have wanted. I believe his father was here, so we got away with that one, and I think they probably would have killed us if we didn't win that one. We went out there and he was talking to me, and we won the first set 7-6, and it was 5-4, and he goes, "If we don't win it now, I don't know what we're going to do." And he stepped up, he hit a huge return, and then put away an overhead, and then after that we said we were going to Disney. Went to Disney right after the tournament, and it was kind of funny because Miss Filer wasn't there, and we sent her a video of our preparation before the match, and she goes, "I don't know how you guys won that." And neither did we, but it was pretty special.
I think just being able to, spend a day remembering David and like all the great things he's accomplished means a lot to me, and I think everyone here. I think it's a great experience for everybody.
Here's the other thing. The reason that I think this is so important here, he came here, okay, after he was diagnosed. And I have lots of videos and things of that nature to show you. He came here, he would come here all day, every day. And he would line and he would sweep. That's how much he loved it. He would line and sweep the courts out there for the other kids. I mean, and he would race to do it. He stayed out here. I remember he and my son James, they were here. It was, I think it was in December. So 2 months later he passed, but it was in December. And they spent the entire day here. Didn't leave. They were here the whole time. James is competing. He's watching. He's lining every court. He's playing mini tennis with people. That time he was having a tough time with his backhand and things of that nature. He spent a ton of time out here sweeping the courts and doing, because he loved the sport so much, and he loved it here. And so I think it's wonderful that they've created a situation here where the kids can see this, they can be a little bit inspired by it. It's a neat situation for him, the family, and the USTA. I think it's the right thing to do and the best thing to do.
Yeah,
it's a privilege to be a part of his life. It's a privilege to be out here. This is all awesome. But then, I always think of the other side, and it's a pretty sad situation. But, it's just a privilege to work with kids like that, because I get to learn. I get to be a better coach. I get to be a better person. And I would say the last year after his diagnosis, I remember when his dad was calling me and texting me when he, first took him to the hospital. I learned a lot about David's character that last year. And I tell you, it's made me it's humbled me. I want to handle that, like he handled that situation incredible. Not that it wasn't painful and tough times, but he was a fighter till the end. And we would go to dinner. I remember I probably went to dinner with him in February, and I had to help him to the table and all that stuff. And it just makes me very proud to be a part of his life. And it's just a privilege,
That's a great question. It really changed my life, changed my perspective in life. When we're tennis players, tennis is life, but it's such a small part of it, So being able to spend, that time with David, really did make me first value what this this life is about, and what all the good things that one may have, but it's a very humbling experience. It's you can't really find anything great to bring out of this because of his passing, but I know that David would really love to just have one kid walk by the plaque and be inspired. So that's why this is so special. He knew that we were going to do this, and he was so pumped about it. So this whole experience and what we're doing today is in a very small way something good that we can get out of this.
Man, I learned that I got some growing up to do, and it humbles you. It humbles you because I think the average age for glioblastoma is maybe 61, and he's like 15 when he's diagnosed, and he had to handle the end of his life coming up, and he knew the possibilities. And for me, obviously, I'm older in midlife, and the end's coming for me, and I just want to handle it as graceful as he did, and I want to be as mature as he was. To learn maturity from a 15-year-old, that's humbling. So yeah.
Yeah, he meant a lot to me. Not much can describe like the feelings that I had, and I think the fact that they're dedicating the court to the family, that's just such an honor for everyone, and I'm glad they did the right thing and did that. And then also, I just think the way he lived his life, especially I believe he told his mom, he said, "I'm a hello world type of kid," and he just lived every day like it was his last. And I think we should take away from that. You can't take anything for granted, especially just being out here and being healthy. And I think that's what he would want for everyone, to just take nothing for granted.
Yeah, I think overall that he just shows us that life is so much bigger than tennis. I think him as a person, over as good of a player as he was, as good of a person as he was, is really what's kind of going to stick out with me for the rest of my life. And getting to know him for the few years that I really got to know him well, it just really is something where it's like, okay, tennis is important, but being a better person in the long run is gonna matter more. So obviously very proud to have known him pretty well, and just obviously very thankful for the time I got to spend with him.
Appreciate what you have and live life to the fullest. I've changed the way I live a lot, I think. I try to live to make memories and live every moment to the fullest. You never know when it's going to end.
He found a way to be happy even when he knew, like, when he was given 2 weeks to live. He found a way to be happy. And it was one of those things where I was, like, sad that I lost him for a long time. And then I was like, man, he can be happy knowing that he's going to die. And that's just something that, taught me just I can be happy if he can be happy through that. So
You know, we've interviewed a lot of kids out here that played with him. They knew him. They ran around and had fun with him. And a lot of, I mean, most of them said he treated everybody the same. He was good to everybody. And they talked about, you know, living your life to the fullest and those kind of things. But what do you look at when you look at the effect he's had on hundreds of young kids? And I mean, they said he changed my life. They were standing here telling us he changed my life. What do you think about when you think about the effect he had on hundreds of kids?
It's unbelievable. I knew him as my son. I didn't know him a lot that way. The amount of people that he knew across the whole United States, it was mind-boggling, and I didn't really learn of a lot of it because I had to give him his space as a dad until later. You know, with today's social media, you know, you're going to know a lot. The ability to meet all these people probably is a little bit better, more widespread than it used to be.
Why don't you just like talk about this day? I mean, it was really kind of special for you. As I watched, you know, to have your friends come here, to have fellowship with so many people come from around the world, and all these young kids come here today. What's your takeaway from today?
It's overwhelming. I didn't know that it was going to be this emotional for me, but I guess the whole year has been emotional, and it never seems to end. But I will say that the generosity of USTA and the generosity of Yonex together, his sponsor, is an amazing thing, and I'll remember it forever.
Can you just kind of wrap this up with where do you go from here?
I mean, I got to stay busy, and I know that I'll think of him every day, but at the very end, he was the joy of my life, and I'll be able to, with this and a lot of other things, be able to, he'll give me a smile. It'll put a smile on my face every time I think about him, and that's really all I can go. I have to move forward. He doesn't want me to grieve about him every single day for the rest of my life. He wants us to think upon him as being an amazing person that lived life to the fullest.